Saintess summons skeletons. By Morn. Chapter 621, A Beggar's Knowledge. Sofia flew through the air, falling 2 floors and crashing feet first onto the roof of a nearby annex. She fell straight through the ceramic roof tiles and the interior ceiling, before painfully landing on a wooden crate that burst open, spreading its contents around. Ugh! Not bad. Sofia was in pain, and relatively sure she had at least a broken leg, though it was an internal injury, but she thanked her good luck for the relatively safe landing onto a crate of some unknown crunchy material. Can't see shit. Through the storm, Sofia still heard the booming voice of the manor's lord, yelling orders at his guard. What are you waiting for? Catch him! Crap! I need to move. Sofia stood up with difficulty. She whined in pain when she tried putting any weight on her right leg, confirming that it was more than a bit broken. She understood that she had landed on a crate of cabbages as she felt her way around. Looking at the hole she had left in the ceiling and recalling how exactly she landed, she oriented herself and pointed at a wall. Pestle, break this wall. The fairy did not need any convincing, and just charged through both the wooden wall and the stone fence wall it was built against, creating a gaping hole leading directly to the streets behind the manor. Sofia quickly followed through the hole as she could hear several voices screaming from behind, though she couldn't make out any of it. At first in the warehouse she supported her weight with her arms, but out in the streets she could only jump on her left leg, quickly hopping after Pestle who ran ahead on her tiny legs, leading Sofia to the nearest narrow alleyway. Sofia put her back against a wall and used what little perception she had regained with Bone Dominus to diagnose her legs. Multiple fractures in the left leg and foot, I think. But it's not painful so far? And it feels like the right shin bone snapped in 2. Hopefully no internal bleeding. She hastily started to mend the broken bones, but it would be a slow process of several minutes for a single leg with how weak her control over bones currently was. She heard the voices coming closer, and started to see the light of torches through the storm. Without much time, she just realigned her broken shin bones and fled through the alleyway, trying to put as little weight as possible on her right leg. It was painful, but she could walk. She took a few random turns, the voices from behind coming closer. There were at least 4 or 5 pursuers. Right before Sofia took another turn, she heard a whistling noise. Pestle turned to a blur as she shrieked and jumped at the same time, her sudden move leaving cracks in the pavement. She grabbed something mid-air right behind Sofia's head. Sofia gritted her teeth and pushed forward into another alleyway, feeling the bite of the rain against her face and the wet fabric of her cloak sticking to her skin. Each step was a battle, and the pain from her shin was like fire, spreading through her leg with every strained movement. The storm seemed to only be getting stronger, drowning out her other senses with its pounding rain and howling wind. I have to keep moving. I can't stop now. The thought came like a distant echo, pushing her forward despite the fog of pain clouding her mind. She could hear the distant shout of a guard, its contents inaudible through the rain. It made her heart race even faster. A faint noise from behind startled her. Pestle had returned. The fairy was covered in blood, red droplets splattering against Sofia's cloak. Sofia didn't have the strength to say anything. The crossbowman was taken care of. But at what cost? Sofia glanced at a house's back door to her left, the only cover she could find. She pushed herself forward, gritting her teeth as her right leg buckled. She barely made it to the door, slumping against it, praying that the darkness would shield her long enough to find the strength to continue fleeing. She could hear the faint shuffle of footsteps getting closer. I need time. I need time. Her breath came in labored gasps, but she forced herself to focus on the next step. The door clicked open with Pestle's help, a claw swiped between the door and its frame destroying the lock, and she stumbled inside, heart pounding, eyes strained from the storm. She closed the door behind her with trembling hands, pressing her back against it, and slowly slid down to the floor. The scent of wood and dust filled the air. The storm outside seemed to fall silent for a moment. Her body, exhausted and aching, threatened to collapse, but Sofia didn't allow it. She couldn't faint now. Gnashing her teeth to keep the screams in, she readjusted the misaligned shin bone directly with her hands, which was much faster and did wonders to keep her awake. Then she started to fix it with Bone Dominus again. While Pestle worriedly listened to the outside, her little head stuck against the door. Pestle and Sofia heard the sound of footsteps, boots striking against the wet pavement. They held their breaths. Sofia prayed that the pursuers would not notice anything, and Pestle was on edge next to her, getting ready to jump out and strike. Sofia grabbed Pestle and pressed her against her chest. We can't kill them. she thought, even though Pestle couldn't currently hear her thoughts. She hoped that Pestle had only injured the crossbowman and not killed him. The fairy seemed to settle down a bit in Sofia's embrace. Sofia heard a first voice outside, but it was far and muffled by the rain. A second one answered, from closer, the voice seemingly a bit panicked but authoritative. He can't have fled far. Keep going, you two there, I go this way, stay wary of the firearm and explosives. Two voices answered, and again Sofia heard the sound of their boots as they went away. The alleyway was silent once more, and Sofia could breathe again. Firearm. Did they mistake Pestle for a flintlock? Hopefully they'll just give up soon. All of this being said, Sofia could not see a thing at the moment, in complete darkness, now that the people outside had left the little light they had brought with them that filtered from under the door was gone. She calmed her breathing as best she could and worked on fixing her legs while checking every other bone in her body. Nothing else broken, luckily. The cape suffered a bit from the fall, but it's a very resistant cloth, so it's not ruined. Overall, it would have been better without the mishap at the end, but I got what I came for, better clothes and some funds. I only need to find a way to sell the jewelry without getting arrested. I can sell them first thing in the morning, before the news of my stunt can travel too much. Can't be too hard to find a jeweler in this city. They'll know what I look like, but... No. I can't, can I? It's too risky even like this. If I end up being stuck here a while, I can't let them trace this back to me. If I'm wanted in the city, it will make everything difficult for no reason. I'll have to find a fence. Sitting in silence in the dark, Sofia heeled her legs. Now that she had calmed down a bit, she could hear the muffled snoring of someone sleeping in a nearby room. Thankfully her intrusion had not woken up the people living there, but she could not stay hidden in place for long. If the guards were serious about finding her, it was only a matter of time before they started searching the nearby homes, and if not, she would undoubtedly be reported to the authorities, so the city guards would also be looking for her in the morning. Not only that, but she had to leave before the people of the house she was in woke up and noticed her. I better take advantage of the storm while it lasts. I should rest just a bit more. Around an hour later, and having heard the sound of the guards' boots searching for her through the storm passing by 2 more times, Sofia finally felt that she had the strength to get up. In the dark, she had Pestle slowly guide her to this house's main entrance, where the guard would be much less likely to be waiting for her at the corner of an alley. Breaking through a second lock, she carefully left the house. There were semi-distant lights in the street on both sides, though their sources were hidden by the rain. They're still searching. Sofia mentally lamented, but after some hesitation she still bit the bullet and ran to the opposite side of the street, into another dark passage. From there, she advanced quickly, avoiding 2 city guard patrols, which were undoubtedly searching for her. She circled some streets several times, both to avoid the patrols and to spread her scent in order to confuse hunting hounds, should the guards try to find her that way. The sun was starting to rise over the horizon, a faint glow illuminating the city through the rain and the thick clouds. Sofia's thoughts were foggy, her body a dull ache. She had no idea how long she had been moving through the storm, it felt like hours. She finally made her way back to the abandoned house she had slept in. The cape she wore was dripping wet, leaving a trail of water behind her in the house. Climbing to the 2nd floor, she fell asleep as soon as she sat down. Chapter 622, Knowledge is Power. Sofia woke up some time later, the outside sunlight weakly filtering through the abandoned house closed curtains. "Ugh, that hurts," Sofia complained as she sat up. Sleeping on the floor was not much of an issue, but it seemed her legs had suffered a bit more than could be fixed by simply repairing the bones. "It's a bit swollen." Giving herself some time to think, Sofia grabbed the still humid cape she had thrown to the side before falling asleep. It was still in a relatively good state despite the night's adventures, but there was some tearing in the fabric. She hung it to dry on an open door and walked down to the 1st floor, finding Pestle looking outside with her head against a window. "Hi Pestle. Anything new?" "Son," the little fairy answered, turning to look at Sofia and nodding repeatedly. "The rain stopped, hey. Let's go out, you can hide here in the inside pocket," Sofia told Pestle, showing her the inside of the brown fur mantle she had stolen the previous day. "The guards yesterday never saw my face. And they thought I was a man. I should be safe to go out, so long as nobody recognizes the clothes." Sofia stepped outside with Pestle hiding in her pockets. It was a cold morning, the pavement still wet from the previous night's rainstorm, the sky was a mix of clouds and blue sky peppered by the black plumes of chimney smoke, as a weak breeze swept through the city. Now I just need to sell the jewelry and I'll be all set to start looking for the others. She did not have to search for very long for what she was looking for. She followed the housewives walking around with empty baskets, and soon found the closest marketplace. Now that she was properly clothed, she could see most people turning to watch her pass by, which was more in line with what she was used to, being taller than most. She used about half of her remaining money to buy a jute bag and a bunch of hot meat buns. She had a use for them later, but if her plan failed, she would at least have a good meal for Pestle. From there, she only had to look at the sky to find the poorest part of the city, the part where there were the fewest chimneys burning. Unsurprisingly, there was a poor district even in this luxurious Lake Island city, but it was not nearly as bad as Sofia expected it to be. The houses were simpler, but not in a terrible state, and there were not so many people outside. But did a large human city without street rat orphans ever exist? If it did, Sofia had not heard of it. Certainly this place was no exception, she thought. As certainly as the sun comes up every morning, Sofia found her targets after some digging. She bribed a couple of kids with a blur-faced smile and lukewarm meat buns, and she got all the information she needed. She gave the kids the entire bag and found a hidden door behind an antique shop according to their instructions. Sofia looked around, checking that there was nobody else nearby, and knocked on the door 4 times. What followed was a long silence. I don't think they lied. Did I get the wrong door? Sofia heard the soft rustling of clothes, and suddenly felt the pressure of a cold blade against her neck. A deep male voice came from behind. Who are you and how do you? He was interrupted by a growling tiny creature jumping out from inside Sofia's clothes, which grabbed the knife out of his hand and pressed it against his own throat. Pestle! Don't kill him! Sofia cried out as she turned around. The man was immobile, not daring to move with his own knife turned against him. Like everyone else, his face was a blur, but he was dressed like any other man in this part of the city, though Sofia could tell he was hiding an impressive musculature under the ordinary clothes. Sofia grabbed Pestle and the knife, giving an innocent smile to the man. I'm just a nobody with a few things to sell. Can we continue this inside? She asked, patting Pestle's tiny head. The man was at a loss for words, but he eventually acquiesced with a sigh. Follow me. The door opened by itself after the man pressed on a loose brick of a nearby wall twice, and Sofia followed him inside of the real business of the antique shop. A small underground market for illegal and stolen goods. After walking down a rather short tunnel, an obese guard barred the way to the main area with a few stalls. Who are you bringing in this time, Ronas? He asked the man. I don't know. She says she had things to sell, and she's protected by a corruptor. I had no choice but to let her in. A corruptor, the obese man repeated with a hiss, looking at Sofia over the other man's shoulder. Have you lost your mind? I'm serious, the man defended himself. Corruptor, is that right? Sovilania's class really had a link to the fairies. Sofia brought Pestle out of her pocket, putting the fairy on her shoulder without a word. Oh lords above, the fat guard reacted panically, taking a step back and almost falling over. Is everything all right out there, Jared? An old woman asked from one of the stalls which was lined up with all kinds of blades. Jared turned around, but said nothing, then he turned back to Sofia and the man who had brought her in. Hide that thing. What do you want from us? We have nothing for the likes of you here, the guard told Sofia in a hushed voice oozing with fear. Jared, the old lady in the back asked again. Pestle has a name, Sofia answered, grabbing the fairy in her hands again. As for what I want from you, this guy already told you, I have things to sell, I just want coins. Everything's fine, the guard answered the old lady, wiping the sweat off of his forehead with the back of his hand. Meanwhile the other guy spoke to Sofia again. Listen. We'll give you the coins, just don't. I don't think you understand, Sofia interrupted. I'm not here to rob you, really, she said, rolling her eyes, though blurry that they were, and fishing out a handful of gold and jewels from a pocket in her breeches. I'm here to sell this. What about the corruptor? Ronas asked, flabbergasted. Pestle is my friend. Any issues with that? And none, ma'am, the fat guard answered, jumping back into the conversation. Great. So, where do I sell this? I will handle it, Ronas answered, after swallowing his saliva, and can I have my blade back? Oh, right, sure, sorry. Out of the black market, Sofia was leaving the poorer part of the city, re-evaluating the situation in her mind. 1200 orms. Considering the price of things here, that feels like something around 3 to 4 gold coins? By weight there was about 5 or 6 golds worth. That's a good value for a fence. I didn't get ripped off. They were really scared of Pestle, so that helps. From this money, Sofia had already spent 400 orms in the black market itself to buy some information. She now had a few useful things with her, like a compass, a map of the city, basic medicinal remedies, which would help with her swollen legs, and most importantly, a list of contacts. It was a list of people likely to be able to help her find the others if they were also in the city. After buying something to eat, Sofia sat down with the map in her hand on a dock bordering the lake. So I landed there, near the Grand Theatre. The bell tower I supposedly fell from looks to be the same one that small dragon was perched on when it attacked us. Right next to the theatre. It might be worth going there to check things out. Maybe the voice even exists in this reality as well. The funeral parlor we first came from should be right there, Sofia thought, tracing a path from the theatre to another place with her finger. Leaving a message there for the others could also work. Then there's that place the dead god supposedly is. Over in Spire. Doesn't tell me much. And then the palace. After that, Sofia looked again at the list of names for her possible informants. Sorceress Alkaline Thunder, 5th floor Sorcerer's Tower, high price but very efficient tracker and headhunter. Madame Seville, Last Flame Brothel, good knowledge of happenings especially in the nobles' circles, trades information for information. General Hippursuran, generally at the guards post near the palace entrance, tall blonde man with green eyes, you can't miss him, has full access to the city's legal files and justice system, generally not very helpful but should be easily swayed by feminine charms. Last resort, Chancellor Izaro, everyone knows where he is, can find anyone, assuming you can even get an audience. Well, that's a start. Sofia found each location on her map, trying to decide where she wanted to try her luck first, only for her eyes to stop on a name that commandeered a change of plan. Queen's Rest. In a secluded part of the inner city. There's a chance it's just a tavern's name, but I'm guessing it's more literal than that. It's not far from the palace and the Sorcerer's Tower. I have to go check it out. Chapter 623, That's My Dad. Sofia slowly walked through the city's streets, pacing herself. Despite being on a lake island, the city was quite vast, for a regular human at least. What distance she could have crossed in one jump normally was now a several hours walk through the city's winding streets. At least I just have to follow the palace's spires in the distance so I can't lose my way. I wish I could just stop a random passerby and ask all the questions I have already. But it's too risky. As long as I don't know who the host of this world is and what they want, I can't make any waves. Not more than the burglary attempt anyway. Asking someone why everyone's face is blurry is at best going to make me pass for a lunatic, at worst it could alert the host that an intruder is here, if they don't already know. That being said, I have some information already. This is probably a memory reset loop just like the regular light world, considering the people here seem to think the queen passed away recently. It's not on the same timeline though, since the capital was supposedly devastated by some plague if we trust that other nobles' words. But things seem fine here aside from the volatile weather. Man. A disaster that starts with a series of violent storms. I'm probably just paranoid, but it's hard not to draw links to what happened to Savon. But if the terrible plague is the ebb, that would also explain why there's barely any organic matter left anywhere on the moon aside from all the skin dust. Maybe it's not human skin dust, just rotten ebb. Would Olitha's skill mistake ebb remnants for human skin though? Wait. The lighthouse. In the middle of nowhere, a lighthouse. The ebb taking over buildings and moving around. Sofia stopped in her tracks in the middle of the streets. Surely not. Surely not. Looking up at the palace's spire piercing the horizon, Sofia felt a shiver running down her spine. She started walking a little faster. Of course it's walled off. Sofia kept her distance with the shrine-like building protected by tall walls, the Queen's Rest. 2 fully armored knights guarding the entrance. A few more patrolling the nearby streets, and at least 2 more guarding the door inside, from what I can see through the gate. This confirms that the Queen's crystal coffin is likely in there. I don't think I can realistically get in there without Pestle killing everyone. And even then, a single person in ambush with a crossbow could still get me. I'll have to see if there's any legal way to get inside, but it's not looking good. Guess I'll go to the Sorcerer's Tower for now. Sofia made her way to the nearby tower, only to be stopped by the two guards guarding the entrance. "Sorry, milady, the tower is closed to the public at this time," the guard on the left said. "When does it open?" Sofia asked. But instead of answering, the two guards looked at each other. They whispered a few words at each other, until the guard on the right finally answered in a hushed voice after making sure no one else in the street was listening. "Can you keep a secret, milady?" "Of course, who do you take me for?" Sofia answered, faking her indignation. "Well, the thing is, the sorcerers have been in a panic for the last 3 days, apparently they all suddenly lost their powers." "What?" Sofia reacted, to keep her identity as a random noble realistic, despite her prior guess that the sorcerers would probably have a hard time doing anything with this world's complete lack of mana. "Please keep it quiet," the guard said, mildly panicked. "We fear the populace might go into a frenzy if the information spreads, especially with the strange weather we have been having recently. So only a handful of nobles are in the know so far. Everyone hopes it is simply a temporary matter, but as things are, it's unlikely the sorcerers can help you no matter what you ask of them. We hope you understand." "I see. The matter is, I am looking for a few people that I believe to be in the city currently. I hope the sorcerers could help me find them." The guard scratched his head, briefly looking at his co-worker. "Who is it you are searching for, milady?" "3 of my relatives. They should have arrived in the city about 3 days ago, but I have had no news of any of them," Sofia explained. "Did you already notify the city watch?" the guard asked. "Not yet. I hope to get a faster answer with the sorcerer's help." "Understandable. Nonetheless, I am sorry but we cannot let you pass, considering the circumstances. You can go report the missing persons at the watch post near the palace gates, right this way," the guard indicated, showing basically the direction Sofia was coming from. "We have a record of anyone who enters or leaves the city, so I have no doubt they will be able to help you at least that much." "I suppose I will do just that. Thank you both, have a nice day." Sofia left and started walking straight toward the palace. She felt that the other informants were likely similar dead ends. The brothel madam was unlikely to know anything, as Alith, Parith and Bookie all wouldn't naturally go and mingle with the city nobles, and the general of the guard would probably take too much time to be convinced to leak information. That only leaves the Queen's Chancellor. It could be hard to get an audience. "I request an audience with the Chancellor," Sofia repeated to a 4th person, after first asking the guards at the entrance of the palace, then 2 persons in the city watch's headquarters. The short man sitting behind a desk in front of Sofia was twirling his mustache that Sofia couldn't see under all the blurriness of his face. That I heard," he leaned forward. "And who might you be?" "Good question, that. Well, Sofia Afinareth," Sofia confidently answered. The mustachioed man burst out laughing at that answer. "And I'm Overan's hidden child." "Good one, lady. But how about you start by telling the truth, hey?" he asked, laughing again. "So he knows the name, it's not just Ormond Cleath. How do I navigate this?" "No reason to lie, I guess. I am Lord Afinareth's adopted daughter." "Yes," Sofia answered with all the seriousness in the world. The man stopped laughing. Now, my patience has its limits. I have a city to run. Which count or baron's bastard are you, hey, that I've never seen your face so far? You better not lie a 3rd time or I'll have you spend the night behind bars for wasting my time," he warned. "You can try that but don't blame me if you die here, I am not one to lie." That seemed to really tick off the man, who slapped his desk. "Enough," he said, breathing in to yell something. "Pestle," Sofia calmly said. The man saw something shoot out from under Sofia's fur mantle, and before he could say anything or even understand what was happening to him, he found himself unable to breathe, his throat compressed by 2 tiny clawed hands. Although Sofia could not see his face, she could still read the utter panic of this man's body language as he seemed frozen in fear, too much to even move a hand to try to free himself from the tiny fey. "I warned you," Sofia told him, "are you ready to hear me out now?" The man could barely shake his head up and down to answer, and he was starting to get really red. "Be smart about what you do next or my little friend here will do more than strangle you, all right? You can let him go, Pestle." The man heaved as Pestle let him go, flying back to Sofia's pockets. "I," he struggled to say, You tamed a corruptor." "Tame? No, she's my friend, I told you." "So, can I see the Chancellor?" "Friend, he repeated like his soul was leaving his body, why I can arrange it, he quickly answered, but why? Our Chancellor. He's a good man. Oh, don't worry, I'm only planning to have a talk. If I plan to do anything to him, don't you think I could just have broken into the palace by myself? You can't posse, the man reflexively started to deny, but Sofia could almost feel his gaze looking at where Pestle was hiding, and he never finished his sentence. Sofia just stared at him with her arms crossed, saying nothing. I will lead you there myself, the man said with a weary sigh. A corruptor, he mumbled, rubbing his neck as he started walking to the door. He put his hand on the doorknob, then he stopped and looked back. May I at least know of your real identity? I told you everything already, Sofia answered in a slightly annoyed tone, although she was internally very happy that her improvised plan worked better than expected. My apologies. It's still quite hard to believe that the Grand Inquisitor would ever appoint a successor, let alone get an adoptive daughter. Oh, believe me, I was, and still am probably the most surprised of all. But he did indeed adopt me. That's... Can you tell me more? If you tell me about your queen, perhaps. Are we going? Of course. Chapter 624, If I Had a Nickel. The short man walked out of the room, immediately calling out to a tall guard wearing fancy medals strapped on his chest who was listlessly signing papers in a corner. Siren. I am escorting this lady to meet with the Chancellor. Leave the paperwork to Otto, you stand in for me until I'm back. Yes, Commander. Siren answered with renewed spirit. And don't stare at our guests like this. You knobhead. He yelled a few orders to the other guards standing around the room doing nothing, and led Sofia outside through a reinforced back door leading directly beyond the palace walls. He took her to the interior pathway leading directly to the main entrance, the fully armored knights patrolling inside of the palace walls silently nodding to him as he walked by. When they were sufficiently far from anyone else, the commander could finally start the discussion again, immediately asking a question about the Grand Inquisitor. Is it true what they say about him? That the reason he never takes off his helmet is to hide his pointy ears like a corruptor's, he inquired, his voice cracking a bit on the last word. He never takes off his helmet? That doesn't sound like the Afinareth I know. But I have seen him with pointy ears once, in the original picture of the Midanisit tablet. No, Sofia decided to finally answer. Even I have not been given the opportunity to see his face many times, but I can assure you his ears are perfectly normal. Is that so? I was thinking there might be some truth to it, considering. No, Pestle has no link to my adoption at all, it's a long story. What about your queen? They say she had eternal youth, is that true? The commander sighed, playing with his mustache as he seemed to reminisce about the queen. That is true. Tragically so. Even now, after she left us, her body seems everlasting. Do you really not have any idea how she died? Sofia continued. Not in the slightest. But if you can keep this between us. We have reasons to believe she knew death was coming for her. Just look around you. Does this look like a kingdom without a proper leader? We found writs in Her Majesty's chambers detailing her plans for the next 100 years of this kingdom. It's almost scary how efficient a ruler she was. But here we are. It sounds like her plans were not quite followed to the letter if this is how the moon ended up. Maybe I should ask about that. Did she predict the storms? Alas not, how could she? Our queen was a sage and a warrior, not some lunatic pretending to have knowledge of the future. It has certainly been a source of great distress to the Chancellor, not to mention the recent disaster with the sorcerers. Now, can you share the details of your adoption? How come the Grand Inquisitor who has never been known to even show his face would end up adopting someone? Sofia giggled lightly at the question, pretending not to notice the hidden objective behind this probing question, or the fact that two of the knights they had passed by earlier were now following them from afar. It was by pure chance, actually. It was a few years ago, when I had no real family left to speak of. He was simply doing what he usually does, and the randomness of life put me right in his path. He must have seen something in me, I could not tell you what, and decided to take me with him. We're not exactly close, still, but we're family. He's the one who sent me here. Well, not quite, but this guy does not need to know that. I wonder if that was convincing enough? That is still honestly hard to believe, the commander commented, but I suppose the lords are all like this, strange in their own way, are they not? Have you had the chance to meet any of the other 8 while you were with the Inquisitor? Other 8? So there were exactly 10, with Lady Esprizia Ormoncleith being the 10th, like that Count told us. I have had the privilege of meeting the Orator and the Annihilator, Sofia started, closely monitoring the commander's body language to know if she had made a mistake betting that all 4 Lords of the Deep would be involved in the lost epic as human lords. So far the commander seemed not to react in any strange way, so it seemed Sofia's intuition was right. She continued, I haven't much to say about the latter, the former is quite the proficient speaker, as the title suggests. He has a bit of an overinflated ego, in my opinion, but that does fit someone of his station. The commander seemed to relax a bit and nodded in agreement. That is certainly the impression His Holiness left on me as well. Even in front of our Queen, in her palace, he would not mince his words. His Holiness? Sofia thought, her mind full of questions, but she could not ask any without blowing her cover built on half-truths. Instead she opted to change the subject back to the Queen. Your Queen was sometimes called the Silent Queen, was she not? Did she just never speak? She asked. Aha, no, of course she would speak. How else was she to rule such a large kingdom? The Queen of Few Words might have been a better fit, but that would not be much of a grand title. Not once did I witness her hesitate or misspeak. She was always straight and to the point, efficient to a fault, just like her blade. The rapier, right? Where is it now, resting on her coffin? The commander laughed, ahaha, you must not be very familiar with the history of our kingdom. If you speak of that blade, it is still embedded in the torso of Overon's rotting carcass, he said with a hint of pride. Overon again. And the place with the dead god is called Overon's Spire. So that Overon is the dead god I'm looking for, and Ormoncleith, either the lord or a marked one sharing the name, killed him. I see. There is no better place it could be, I suppose, Sofia continued, going with the mood. Rightly so, the short commander said, nodding to himself. Sofia saw him do a discreet sign with his fingers, and she could hear the footsteps of the following knight slowly become fainter. What about the other lords? Sofia asked next, hoping that she could avoid further suspicion by asking questions herself. I suppose you have met many during your long service to the Queen. Almost all of them, the commander affirmed with pride, a great honor. Sometimes I wonder, if I had been a little more gifted with the blade, whether I could have risen to become a mercenary lord like the late Saintess. Although I suppose he was too short-lived to envy. But even my meager talent could get me to where I am now, so I've little to complain about. What about you, Lady Sofia? Any particular talent? An ambition to lead the human race to the next level? Unsure of what to say, Sofia decided to laugh it off, aha. Alas not. She took a second to search for her words and a suitable comeback. I fear I did not inherit my adoptive father's ambitions. The most I can do is to repay him by going on errands like these. Oh. Yes, I did mean to ask, now that you mention it again, why exactly were you sent here? Not to offer your condolences, I assume. Indeed not. I have very few details, but I know your Queen has somehow gotten her hands on a sorcery schematics. Sofia tried hesitantly, that she got from another lord. I'm not even sure which one, the letter did not say. It could even have been from my father himself, for all I know. Either way, he wishes for me to retrieve it and bring it back to him, she explained as they neared the palace's doors. Interesting. I would make a comment but I am afraid only the Chancellor himself could tell you anything about such private matters of Her Majesty. That I understand. The commander nodded and took a deep breath, opened the doors. With the sound of chains moving, the palace's massive doors slowly swung open. Surprisingly, a tall, slender man was waiting on the other side. He looked dead, a grey, rotting corpse, floating a good meter above the ground. His open eyes were like a black abyss, staring straight through Sofia's soul. She couldn't move. Next to her, the commander seemed to be seeing something else. Chancellor! You finally decided to come out of your chambers. What great news! Sofia tried to move as hard as she could, but she could not feel herself, let alone move a finger, and her thoughts became muddier by the second. She saw Pestle jumping out of her mantle, throwing herself claws first at the floating corpse, but the fairy, too, became frozen in place, stuck mid-air a good meter away from the Chancellor. The corpse's right hand rose like that of a puppet pulled up by a string, and drew an horizontal line. Sofia saw Pestle be split into two at the waist, glittering midnight blue blood spilling out. Then her own vision started to tilt, before falling to the ground with a wet thunk. With a loud gasp, Sofia opened her eyes, adrenaline rushing through her veins. She was in a familiar bed. In a familiar room. Someone came with hurried footsteps. Goodness, you're awake. Chapter 625, I've just been in this place before. The nurse put down her things on the bedside table and came closer, putting a hand on Sofia's forehead. The fever is down. Don't move, I'm fetching you some water, she said, leaving as fast as she had come. Sofia watched her walk away, saying nothing. Many thoughts were rushing to her head, but the first thing she did was checking the inside of her shirt. Oh, thank the lords! Pestle was hiding in there, still in one piece, and sleeping peacefully. Sofia let her head fall back on the pillow. Her body was sore and she needed to use the toilet urgently, but her situation was better than last time as she spared herself the headache of trying to use her mana. So now we're just a part of the loop. But unlike the people of this city, I retained my memory of the last cycle. Hearing the nurse moving around the hospital, quickly checking in on the other beds while carrying water, Sofia suddenly felt a bit sad. Her own situation was one thing as it was not her first time being stuck in a loop, and this time her odds looked a lot better than they had been with Curse and Zire. But what hit her was the meaninglessness of the life of the people here, and of all the tethered in the light world in general. Stuck repeating the same endless day, unable to ever accomplish anything, as all they do and their memories of it are wiped away after some time. How long have they been stuck like this? The same loop for 30,000 years? At a relative speed slower than the real world? How many days is it? I lived through 3 before I died, but it could be a lot longer, I suppose. I hope not, though. If I imagine that the loop is 100 years long, that would be bad for the others. Bookie especially would probably not take it well. I want to think if it was that long they would have found a way to get out. Sofia absent-mindedly drank the water the nurse brought her, and continued thinking things through, lost in her own head. The people here truly live a miserable existence. And not even death can save them, it seems. That's good for me, at least. Being stuck here with Pestle was truly a lucky break. But if she gets unsummoned when she runs out of lifetime in the real world, then we're on borrowed time until I'm completely powerless. I need to find a way out as soon as possible. The Chancellor must be key. The commander couldn't see him like I did, which, if I had to guess, must be related to me being able to keep my memories. He looked like a corpse. But his mere presence was enough to freeze Pestle and me both in place. And he had black eyes like Afinareth. Maybe I am really going to find Afinareth's spell here, then. But this also kind of looks like some flavor of necromancy. And how he killed us. There was no projectile or mana or anything, it just happened. I lost my head again. Maybe I should start wearing a mithril collar or something. Unable to keep it in any longer, Sofia made her way to the toilets, helped by the nurse, and tried waking up Pestle once she was done, whispering so that the nurse wouldn't hear. Pestle! Wake up, she called, gently shaking the sleeping fairy clinging to her waist. Pestle yawned as she woke up. Like before, she looked quite weak and famished. No, she said dejectedly, the same thing she had answered to Sofia's question in the first loop. So you remember as well? Pestle nodded weakly. Remember. She slid out of Sofia's shirt, landing on the floor, and mimicked the Chancellor's puppet-like movements. Swiping her hand horizontally, miming her guts exploding with her hands, then letting herself fall to the floor, dead. Sofia could barely hold in her giggles, and Pestle stood back up, her tiny hands on her waist. You look pissed. We'll go and get revenge, don't you worry, Sofia reassured Pestle with a smile the fairy couldn't see. Pestle nodded and climbed back up Sofia's leg to hide in her shirt. The first thing will be to find her enough food so she can recover energy to fight. Taking care of the exit procedures faster, since she already knew how things were going to go, Sofia left the hospital at around the same time as the previous loop. Right, she complained to herself as she was forced to wait at the hospital's entrance under the porch. It's going to be raining like this for another 10 minutes, and I'm still in rags. Great. I could do without getting wet right now. I suppose I'll wait it out this time as well. When the rain finally stopped, Sofia took advantage of the memories of the previous time to quickly navigate the streets. She bought the same meal for herself and Pestle, and crashed out in the same abandoned house a good hour earlier than the first time. Like the first time, she woke up in the middle of the night, her thoughts drowned out by the constant noise of the outside's pouring rain. Pestle. Time to get to work. Under the cover of the night, Sofia looked for the same small city manor as last time. She lost no time finding it and breaking in, letting Pestle devour the kitchen's reserves again. They quickly advanced to the third floor, and this time, Sofia was much faster, knowing exactly where to look and what clothes to steal, even in almost complete darkness. She left through the same way she came, completely undetected, and found herself under the rain once more, but with proper clothes, and no broken legs, this time. You have acquired meal for Pestle and protection from the rain. And now? Well, let's see. Are you still hungry? She asked Pestle, who gave her usual nods in answer along with her broken speech. Hungry. Hungry leg. All right, I'll find you a better meal. We need you to be as strong as you can be. Strong. Sofia could almost hear the system notification ding in her head. You have received a new quest, find filling food for ferocious fairy. Aha. I hope Mr. Scribe is all right. I guess he must be half asleep, considering there's no mana for him to work with. Knowing now that her actions were essentially without any consequences in this world, since every loop started the same, down to herself falling from the same bell tower and being comatose for 2 days, Sofia felt a lot more free to do whatever she needed to than the first time around. She and Pestle walked through the city in a quasi-straight line, breaking and entering in all the houses, with Pestle's seemingly infinite stomach devouring every last pantry's food contents. Doing this again and again, Pestle finally signaled she was no longer hungry around daybreak. Finally. Sofia reacted, sitting down on a random barrel in an alleyway. You're making me glad that you're usually a skeleton, or I really wouldn't be able to satiate you. Do all the Fae eat this much? Pestle shook her head, all no. No mana, hungry. Only the ones like you, then? Or do you mean it's because there's no mana here? Pestle seemed to need some time to find her words, not here. No mana, always hungry. I see. Say, do you think you will still be able to speak when you're a skeleton again? Yes. Pestle answered after some hesitation. Is that right? I will be looking forward to that, then. I bet Bookie will be ecstatic to learn that. What about your memories of your previous life? Do you remember anything? No. Pestle answered, shaking her tiny head, like face, she added, pointing at Sofia's head. Like face? Do you mean blurry? Yes. Blurry like face. Understood, Sofia acknowledged, honestly, it is probably better like this. The previous you was not very friendly. Pestle crossed her arms, and looked up at Sofia, previous, not very Pestle. Sofia laughed, and Pestle copied her laugh, she laughed with her. All right, enough rest. Now that you've eaten, we have to get to work. Work. In the previous loop, this was around the time that Sofia made her way back to the abandoned house for another nap, but this time around, she still felt full of energy, and with Pestle hiding under her cape, she started making a beeline for this loop's first key target. Queen's Rest, here I come. No. Here we come. Chapter 626, Least Aggressive Fairy. Before throwing herself in the Chimera's maw, Sofia started with some intel gathering. People were quick to inform her that the Queen's eternal mortal envelope was indeed laid to rest there, as the name suggested, and that it was completely forbidden to the public, the Chancellor and Guardian Knights being the only ones allowed inside. Thereafter, Sofia spent an entire day observing the enclosed shrine and its surroundings, at first by just walking around in the vicinity, and later by hiding upstairs in someone's home she entered by lockpicking the back door, and observing through the windows. Night was falling once again, and Sofia felt a bit discouraged. She counted no less than 20 knights, 10 for the morning shift and 10 for the afternoon one, as well as at least 4 archers waiting in ambush in surrounding buildings. They were basically impossible to spot from the street, but Sofia had noticed one from her higher viewpoint, and from there she spent all afternoon trying to locate others. She was not even sure that she had seen them all. At least no mana means I do not have to worry about there being any sorcerers. It's not going to be easy even with Pestle. The surrounding streets are well lit with many torches starting from dusk. Going about it discreetly is basically impossible. But going for a frontal assault is also bound to fail. The watchman's headquarters is only 2 streets away and I've seen firsthand how many they are on standby. And currently I might die from a single punch, let alone a sword strike. I do have the luxury of potentially getting multiple attempts, but I would rather not count on it. Maybe I should simply ask the commander if I can have access before I risk my life, but I don't think he would accept. Everyone here has this air of pride and nostalgia when they speak about her. With this kind of borderline faith-like devotion, it's basically asking for the moon. I wouldn't be shocked if they arrested me for even daring to ask. I'll just have to find a way. I can start by killing the archers and... Wait, can I? What if people I kill don't come back for the next loop like I did? I'm different from them, after all, keeping my memories. No. I worry for nothing. If it's been 30,000 years and these people don't come back to life each time, wouldn't this place be a ghost town by now? Or wait, would it? Since they lose their memory, doesn't everyone do the exact same things each loop unless someone like me comes to disrupt them? That would mean anyone meant to die during the loop died off the first time and there hasn't been any deaths since. That's quite the issue. And the only way to know for sure would be to kill someone and see whether they are back in the next loop. After these thoughts, Sofia hit a mental roadblock. Pestle. Did you kill that guard with a crossbow who shot me last time? Pestle seemed to hesitate. Yes. Very kill, she answered, proud of herself. Now that is great news. Just to make sure, was it the same one we saw on the third floor? Same, Pestle confirmed, quite sure of herself. Sofia's smile grew wider. The next day, around midnight, Sofia was about ready for her grand plan to unfold. She was sitting on a wooden balcony overlooking a rather narrow street. Any minute now. Lit by a single candle, Sofia pretended to read a book while looking at the end of the street. Finally, there was light. They're here. 2 knights were coming, they were part of the constant patrols around the area, each holding a torch, casually chatting through their closed helmets. Sofia patiently waited until the perfect time, standing up when the knights came close. She bent over the balcony and waved at them. She called out to them, though not overly loudly as it was night, "Have a good shift, Sir Knights." The knights looked up, they were about 5 meters away from being under the balcony. One of them raised his torch, perhaps to answer, but Sofia was not going to wait, she had already damaged the balcony's railing, now all she had to do was to lean on it with all of her weight. Hopefully I survive this. As she leaned over the balcony railing, the wood cracked beneath her. The knights had just enough time to shout a warning before Sofia fell from the balcony. The sensation of falling uncontrollably only lasted a second. One of the knights rushed forward, trying to catch her. Unable to properly catch her, he slammed into her with a grunt, his arms wrapping around her in a desperate attempt to break her fall. That might have worked with a shorter lady, unfortunately for him, Sofia was quite tall, and heavier than she looked. The impact was brutal, throwing them both to the cobbled street. Sofia cried out, she had planned to but ended up not needing to act, as the pain was quite real, she certainly had at least a broken bone. For a moment, the situation was nothing but confusion. The knight under Sofia groaned in pain as she struggled to keep herself conscious through the pain. The other knight rushed up to them, "Joe! Oh, lords!" He grabbed Sofia and pulled her down from his colleague. He quickly opened the visor of his bassinet helm. "Lady, you're injured. Try to stay awake," he told Sofia, who groaned weakly in answer, doing her best to act as limp as she could, despite her thoughts being clear now that the brunt of the pain was behind her. "Broken rib. Crap. Need to fix that fast." The standing knight helped his fallen companion. "I'm fine. How is the girl?" the fallen knight asked in between 2 groans as grabbed his colleague's extended hand and sat up. "She looks in pain, but I think you saved her from the worst," he quickly said, looking at Sofia. "Are you still with us?" "Hey!" Sofia kept her eyes unfocused and her limbs limp, she did not answer. "Shit! Joe, stay with her, I'm getting Corinne. Be quick!" The knight left the narrow street, running, while Joe opened his own helmet and bent to the side to grab Sofia by the shoulder. "Lady! Stay awake! Now is not the time to faint," he said, shaking her shoulder lightly while supporting her head. As soon as the other knight disappeared by the corner of the street, a tiny shadow dropped from the balcony, landing directly behind on the knight's lap. He had no time to react. The tiny creature jumped, and its clawed hand pierced the knight's forehead, sinking in all the way to the creature's shoulder. The knight went limp. He died without even having time to realize he was being attacked. Sofia stood up, fighting off the dizziness, Her broken rib wasn't healed, but it was summarily put back in one piece, which would have to do for the time being. Sofia pulled a rag from her pocket, and plugged the hole in the knight's forehead when Pestle yanked her arm out. Then Sofia opened the door of the building, which was right under the balcony, and Pestle lifted the corpse, running inside of the house with it. Sofia closed the door. No one had reacted to the scene, as the inhabitants of the nearby houses had all been killed in their sleep by Pestle in the previous hour. The body was brought to the other side of the house, and Sofia started to quickly undress it. She had chosen to ambush that duo of knights in particular, since they were both right about her size. Thankfully she was relatively familiar with plate armor, having studied many designs to find inspiration for variations of her bone armor. With Pestle's help, removing the multiple layers of armor took about 5 minutes, and Sofia was just starting to get dressed when she started hearing noise from outside. "Joe! Joe, where are you?" the man yelled. "He's back. I don't have long." Sofia rushed to put on the armor. She decided to leave out the gambeson to go faster. It would be uncomfortable and look odd if anyone looked at her too closely, but it would also make the armor a lot lighter, which would help considering how physically weak she currently was. Fully armored, Sofia closed the helmet, the inside of which was slightly bloody despite her best efforts to get a clean assassination, and she left the house through a window on the opposite side of the balcony, getting some help from Pestle to hoist herself through. Sofia felt a bit weak. All of this night's killings left her a bit sick, even if she knew they were only temporary deaths, and she was still in pain from the fall, but she had to proceed nevertheless. She gave a thumbs up to Pestle. "Thank you, good work. We separate now, give me 10 seconds to run, and start phase 2. Phase 2. Pestle repeated confidently, copying the thumbs up. Sofia engulfed herself in a narrow alleyway, while Pestle rushed to the main street leading directly to the Queen's Rest, some 500 meters away. It wasn't long before Sofia started hearing the noise of Phase 2, the disaster. Pestle rushed through walls, bursting through the stone with ease, and clawing away at every supporting beam she could find. Before Sofia could even run 100 meters, she heard it, the first building started to collapse. The deafening noise spread through the streets. In the nearby houses, people woke up. In the distance, people were screaming. In the middle of the night, a general panic started, as buildings started to collapse one after the other, all the work of one single fairy, laughing to herself like a lunatic. It was not long before Sofia heard the sound of horns. The knights were calling for reinforcements. When, after her run, Sofia arrived at the shrine, the gates were wide open, and there was a single knight left to guard the place, his sword drawn, panically looking at a building falling to ruin in the distance. Chapter 627, Look at me, look at you. Sofia slid a hand in her helmet, scraping off some of the blood she had been forced to smell as she ran, and smeared it messily on her side. She then ran up to the knight guarding the shrine, and stopped just out of reach of his blade, huffing and puffing under her closed helmet. The knight's helmet turned to look in her direction, but he said nothing. "I can't just enter, can I?" Sofia forced her throat to make her voice a bit deeper. What are you waiting for?" she asked, her tone accusatory. "We need to help them." "But, the lab," the knight answered, conflicted feelings clear in his voice. "We can worry about that if the city survives whatever this is." You're right, we must protect the city." Sofia nodded. "Go first, I got hurt by a flying debris," she explained, showing the blood on her side. "I just need to catch my breath." "I'll be right behind you." The knight answered with a silent nod, gripped his sword with 2 hands, and after a second of pause, ran in the direction of the maniacally laughing fairy in the distance, who broke through wall after wall like a wild cannonball. One fewer obstacle. "I hope Pestle manages to find the others." Tearing her eyes off of the knight running to his death, Sofia turned to the open gates of the Queen's Rest, or as the knight just called it, the lab. Entering the building made of polished white stones, Sofia noticed something near the entrance, engraved directly into the walls. "Looks like some kind of ritual circle. Too bad I've no time to memorize it, but at least I can be sure it's off since there's still no mana," she thought as she ran past it. The entryway into the building quickly led to spiraling stairs going down, and Sofia ran down them as fast as she could with all her armor on. At the bottom, she unsheathed her sword and scanned her surroundings. The room the stairs led to was quite vast. It was silent and calm compared to the chaos outside. Strangely, it was only lit by 2 braziers near the back wall, leaving most of the room in complete darkness, but already Sofia could see her target, a white crystal coffin, on a shrine-like pedestal at the very back of the room in between the lit flames. I can't see much, but it sounds like there's no one. Sofia opened her visor and took her first step into the room, and discovered that the floor was more than a bit wet. Her boots were splashing into a liquid she couldn't see, like stepping into a shallow puddle. The floor looks dry near the braziers. I should have brought that guy's torch instead of snuffing it out when I was done putting on the armor. Sofia took a deep breath in. Help! Help! We need help outside. It's a corruptor, she yelled, faking distress, before shutting up and focusing on the sounds. Her voice echoed in the building's main room and halls, and there was absolutely no response. All right. Looks like there's really no one left inside. Sofia walked through the darkness in a straight line, going toward the coffin. The liquid covering the ground got deeper as she went, seeping inside of her boots. Finally Sofia stepped into the light, walking out of the pool of liquid, and she observed with horror as shimmering blood of the deep seeped back out of her boots, splattering all over the ground near the brazier. Oh shit! The coffin was made of completely opaque white crystal, but now that she was closer, Sofia could see the tiny holes made near its bottom on the side, from which thin streams of the colorful blood flowed out, following grooves carved into the pedestal to fill the pool in the middle of the room. Sofia thought back to the hand impaled on a small tree she had found in the Light World village's obelisk. She feared what she might find within the coffin. The lid was heavy but it wasn't sealed. Wedging her sword under it, she used it as a lever. The lid opened slightly, slid to the other side, fell from the coffin and crashed on the ground with a deafening noise, shattering on impact like a sheet of ice. Sofia gave the contents of the coffin a glance. She immediately stepped back, teetering. She fell to her knees and threw up on the spot. When she finally managed to stop retching, Sofia stood up, still wobbly on her feet, and turned around, not giving the contents of the coffin a second glance. She would probably never forget the nightmarish vision she had witnessed on this day, of the queen's brain, eyeballs, and heart, floating in their shimmering blood, only linked together by a bundle of raw nerves. The heart was still beating, and when Sofia had looked at the eyes, that had looked right back at her. Almost mindlessly, Sofia walked out of the main room. There were side rooms, and though the corridors linking them to the main room were in total darkness, the distant rooms were not. There the notion of the Queen's Rest being a laboratory started to make sense. What the fuck were they trying to do? Dead or dead-looking, badly injured small animals, mostly bats, floated in tubes full of transparent liquid. Above each of them were glass balls fully to the brim with shimmering blood, slowly dispensing drops of the blood one by one into the tubes. On a table against the back wall, she found a handwritten journal, to her surprise, written in a language she could perfectly understand, Draconic. Only the last few pages remained, hundreds of them before having been ripped off at the seam. Kel 16th, 31963. Loveria has developed a strange sickness. It seems magical in nature, yet I fail to find a way to heal her. She is a weak human, I fear for her life. We have suffered heartache enough these past years. Kel 19th, 31963. Loveria's sickness is worsening, she is feverish, and her skin is starting to turn unnaturally pink. Erna pointed out that Loveria was the first one to discover Her Majesty on the day of her passing. She believes the curse that killed our queen must have spread to her. I, for one, know that no mere curse could have bested our Majesty. I fully believe that her departure was a choice, but still, Loveria's sickness and her discovery on that day might not be unrelated. Kel 24th, 31963. Loveria is no longer the only affected. Circa, Her Majesty's other royal maid is now also starting to show early symptoms. It could be due to their proximity between themselves. We have to assume this sickness is contagious, if so I am almost certainly affected. I fear not for my life even in this human shell, but our kingdom could be in grave danger. I have placed all of the palace's internal staff in containment in my quarters for now while I work on a remedy. Kel 33rd, 31963. The pink patches on Loveria's skin are spreading, they have taken on a slightly slimy texture. After careful examination, it seems to me that this sickness is fungal in nature, but none of my efforts so far have managed to control the spread. We have had to stop bringing wet towels to manage her fever, as it only seemed to make the affliction worse. Hopefully there will be a breakthrough in our research soon. Rel 7th, 31963. It is certain now, everyone who has been unfortunate enough to come into close proximity of Her Highness' deceased body during the day of her passing has contracted the fungal plague, myself included. I should easily survive this, nevertheless, our subjects do not share my lineage, research must continue. Rel 14th, 31963. Loveria has succumbed to the fungal plague, the fungus has spread to her bloodstream and is eating her from the inside. It was a gruesome sight. We have burned what was left of her, which did seem to get rid of the fungus. I cleansed myself by fire, but I still need to save the others. Circa does not have much time left. Rel 18th, 31963. Circa is on her last leg, I am desperate, and, I think, starting to hallucinate. The walls are talking to me. I first thought of a prank in bad taste, but I felt no magic. My mind must be sick. Rel 23rd, 31963. The walls keep speaking. The blood is the key. Circa was burned, it's Yvonne next. Rel 25th. The blood. Blood flows, never ending. I am sorry, my queen. Yvonne has drunk. Rel 28th. Yvonne is still alive. Rel 29th. Ivan's infection is slowing. It's great news. Truly great news. The blood is endless. Fungus is spreading. Everyone must drink. Everyone. Chapter 628, Cause and Effect. The journal continued, Sofia translated page after page, in an almost feverish trance. There were only 2 entries left. Cell 14th, 31964. I have opened the doors of this laboratory once more. We have committed a grave mistake. The fate we escaped is nothing compared to the fate which awaits us now. I must understand the blood, before it's too late. It is not eternal youth we have attained. Far from it. Cell 17th, 31964. I need more blood. Today I will open the coffin again. I pray you forgive me from the afterlife, Esprizia. And that's the last entry, Sofia mumbled, closing the leather-bound journal. This must be Chancellor Isaro's research journal. To think this guy was a dragon hiding among humans. It might be hard for me and Pestle to get our revenge after all. Sofia took off her helmet, feeling a bit too hot. She scratched her head as she analyzed every word of what she had just read. Pink mushrooms spreading through the blood, she said, sighing, so the ebb really came from here, it seems. And the deep's blood can get rid of it somehow. I wonder if we can use that to cleanse Savon. Sofia turned around, to give the animals floating in tubes a closer look. At first glance they looked just like dead animals, but upon close inspection, it seemed they were a bit too dark for the current lighting, their colors a bit too dull, a bit grey. And everyone drank the blood. Eventually becoming the tethered. All of this shit started just because the queen mysteriously died one day. To be causing such a mess. I'm really starting to think it wasn't just a marked one. Esprizia Ormoncleith might have just been the real lord. But why? And not only that, but the Chancellor was going crazy at one point, a dragon hearing voices? Coming from the walls? Really? If that doesn't sound exactly like orator starting shit, I don't know what does. Then it's likely that human Lord Inquisitor I pretended to be the daughter of was genuinely Afinareth. While 1,000 questions were brewing in Sofia's mind, her newfound conviction that, for some reason, the lords were actually all openly walking around the planet during the Lost Epoch, parading as powerful humans, brought something back from the depth of her memories. She remembered her last conversation with the voice, right before she was catapulted to the deep. But I almost pity you. They will abandon you, just like they abandoned me. The voice had told her. Such is their nature, I have learned. Struggle on, girl. Soon enough, you will beg to join my side, Sofia repeated from memory. The voice might have just been someone like Isaro. Hell! Out of nowhere, the ground started to shake. The quake was weak, and only lasted a few seconds, but it was surprising. Sofia could see some cracks forming along the walls. Is Pestle's rampage causing this place to collapse? Just what I needed. And I still have another room to check out. Sofia left the room, quietly checking that there was still no one in the main hall, and going straight to the opposite corridor in this T-shaped underground lab. Sofia half hoped to find another journal there to learn more about the madness that had unfolded on this moon, but she found nothing of the sort. Instead, she found a laboratory with glass tubes mounted with balls full of shimmering blood again. The difference was, in the tubes were an assortment of different plants instead of animals. Most plants had died or were dying, but one survived and Sofia immediately recognized it, it was the same kind of leafless tree she had found in the obelisk, though it was not yet quite as tainted by the deep's colors. It was a tree with black bark, like charcoal, and though it had no flowers, on its roots grew tiny round and naturally shriveled fruits. There was another short quake while Sofia observed the plants, which she ignored. Light fruits. It's no wonder we found them in the tunnel leading to the obelisk, they were growing on that tree's roots. And we found such roots even in the first city. But that also kind of looks like the tree linking all the tethered, does it not? I feel like I'm close to piecing everything together, but I'm not quite there yet. And I still don't understand this place. This illusion world and the light world in general, how did we get here? By curiosity, Sofia opened the tiny door on the glass tube containing the black tree, and picked one of the tiny fruits. It lit up in her hand. No doubt, that's the exact same thing, just smaller. The light does not do anything right now, though. I kind of want to taste it. No safer place than this fake world to do that, this way I'll be able to stop Alith from trying herself later, because she is going to want to. Sofia almost threw the entire thing right into her mouth, but she stopped herself right before that, and decided to try to open the fruit first. She placed it on a nearby desk, and cut it in halves by sliding her sword on it. Oh! Oh shit! I almost put that inside of my mouth? Even in a fake world I'm not sure I want to end like that. Fucking! It's good that we got rid of them, hey! So that's how the ebb made it to Viliadran. Some dumbass, someone like me, brought back a fruit from their trip to the hidden moon. On the desk, the two halves of the fruit were moving around, squirming bright pink tentacle-like extremities letting them crawl on the hardwood surface. The squirming only lasted for a few seconds, before the two halves fell inert again, the pink goo in their inside no longer moving. Crap, another quake? I need to be fast, I don't want to still be here if this place collapses. But just to make sure. Sofia bent over the desk and spat on one half of the fruit. Since the ebb reacted strongly to water, she would know for sure whether it was the same thing or not depending on what happened. That half of the fruit woke back up. It squirmed around with renewed vigor, tentacles flailing in the air. It jumped off of the desk and started rolling off in the direction of the main room. I think not. With a stomp of her boot, Sofia crushed the rolling fruit and its tiny pink tentacles, but instead of the wet sound she expected, she heard sizzling. Fuck, my boots are still wet. Sofia stepped off from the thing, but contrary to her fear of having fed the ebb even more, she found nothing under her boot except a pile of grey flakes. What the? Wait, my boots are wet with the blood, which gets rid of the ebb. I get it. It's weird but I get it, that coincides with what was said in the journal. Still doesn't this look like? Sofia bent down, and, with her gloved hands, grabbed some of the grey flakes. Skin dust. The animals in the other room must have all been infected with the ebb, then given the blood. This is such a mess. And the ebb here is not even nearly as bad as the one we have in Savoln. It kills slowly and is a lot weaker. I guess it had a lot of time to evolve over 30,000 years. Another quake started as Sofia was deep in thoughts, stronger than the previous ones. The entire lab shook, and some of the glass tubes started to fall over and break, spilling deep blood all over the ground. One of the glass balls broke right in front of Sofia, spilling its contents. There was not only blood in there, but also a large chunk of flesh. I need to get out. Sofia left the room running. The quake stopped, but she decisively left, as the cracks along the walls were a lot deeper now. She ran through the dark corridor, making it to the main hall of the laboratory. She started running up the spiraling stairs. Another quake started. Sofia heard the sound of stone breaking. In the dark, she felt herself start to fall. With a loud gasp Sofia opened her eyes, adrenaline rushing through her veins. She was, yet again in a familiar bed. In a familiar room. Someone came with hurried footsteps. Sofia knew what words were coming before she even heard them. Goodness, you're awake. Her throat was too dry to answer, nevertheless, Sofia felt quite good, a light smile on her blurry face. While the nurse left to fetch her some water, Sofia softly caressed the head of the sleeping fairy hiding under her hospital gown. It was a good run. Over and Spire next. Chapter 629, Catch You Catch Me. Pestle slept for longer than usual, only waking up when Sofia presented her with her favorite food, the leg they had gotten from the same street food stall the previous 2 times. Finally up? Here's your food. Leg. So? Discovered anything during your rampage? What happened? Pestle gobbled up the entire bird leg in half a second, making pleased noises, and wiped her mouth with her arm before answering. Break City. Found Pret. You found Perith. Pestle nodded. Pret found Pestle. Talk but Pret not answer. Then we die. You both died? Sofia asked, trying to understand Pestle broken sentences. Yes. How? The same man who killed us last time. No, Pestle answered, shaking her head. Big. Big. Not a human, then? Yes. How big? Can you show me? Pestle tilted her tiny head up, looking at the sky. Then she jumped off from Sofia's arms. Landing on the cobblestone-paved alleyway, she bent down and grabbed 2 tiny pebbles, which she lined up in front of Sofia, who also crouched to watch what Pestle was trying to do. Pestle pointed at the smaller of the 2 pebbles. Pestle, she said, looking up to Sofia, then back down, before pointing at the second pebble, Pret. Lastly she pointed at herself, Big. She then got down on all fours, beating her wings and unleashing a cute roar, before crushing the 2 pebbles with her right hand, leaving a small handprint in the pavement. That's what happened? Sofia asked. Yes. Like Big. Then we die, Pestle stated matter-of-factly, slapping her hands together to get rid of the dust. Was it a dragon? Sofia asked. That certainly explains the quakes. Dragon. Pestle repeated, apparently not understanding the word. Like a big lizard with wings? Do you know what a lizard looks like? Like a big. Yes. It must have been Izaro. All the destruction might have forced him out of the palace. Do you think you could beat the dragon? No, Pestle answered, dejected. That's fine. We'll figure something out. Chances are we won't even have to fight to get out of here. What about Perith? Pret help. Pestle answered, starting to mime a fight with voiced sound effects. She waved an invisible sword, and shot an invisible bow, clang, bang. Pew. Pew. Night all die. Then I talk Pret. What did you tell him? Pestle tell with Sofia, leg big. Palace no, very kill. Pret nod, finger show, then we die. That's. This is what you told him, word for word. Yes. Poor Perith. So close to reuniting yet so far, that must have been frustrating. His mutism didn't stop him from getting weapons, at least, so he hopefully is not struggling too much, and now he knows for certain I am here too. Can you show me what you mean by finger show? Sofia asked next. Like show, Pestle answered, pointing at Sofia with a finger. Show what? We die. Very kill. Pestle no see, Pestle answered, sounding embarrassed by her answer. Oh. Well. Let's go sleep at our usual place, we'll investigate that tomorrow. I'm getting too sleepy, Sofia told Pestle with a yawn, holding out a hand for her to climb onto. Yes. Change of plan. Perith first, over-inspire second. The following night was almost a perfect recreation of the one in the previous loop, quickly stealing food and clothes from the manor then proceeding to steal all the food they could find in other houses for Pestle. The only difference was that they now knew which houses had too little food to be worth looting, which they avoided, allowing them to finish a lot earlier even though they checked a few new wealthy-looking houses' pantries. They were caught in the act by a guard this time, when they carelessly broke into a house without checking the surrounding streets, but he tragically also became food for Pestle before he could even raise his voice to call for help. Shortly before dawn, Pestle started leading Sofia toward the general direction where she thought she had met Perith. After a long search and a lot of turning randomly on Pestle's unclear instructions, Pestle stopped Sofia at the entrance of an inn around noon. Here. Very leg. Pret here. Very leg, hey. Even while busy destroying the city you were looking for more food. That's a long way off from the Queen's Rest. Not even in the palace district anymore. Think Perith is here. Pestle answered with a shrug, and climbed down Sofia's shoulder to hide in her clothes, because someone was coming their way. Well. Worth a try. Sofia entered the inn. The smells of booze of meat were strong in the air, it seemed some people were already drunk in the lively common room despite the early hour. Sofia walked up to the innkeeper, exchanging a few words, asking about a mute man and describing Perith's appearance in the light world. The innkeep said he knew nothing about him, but suggested that he could pass on a message to the man if he saw him, for a fee. Sofia quickly scribbled a note for Perith in Elvish, so that the innkeeper wouldn't be able to read it, and left the inn. Since Sofia had seen Perith read some of her Elvish books, he would also be able to read that. Afterwards, going into the inn's back alley, Sofia asked Pestle to show the direction where Perith was pointing. Here, Pestle said, pointing in the general direction of the palace. Are you sure? Follow. Saying so, Pestle jumped out of Sofia's arms, and started to walk around the inn, looking through every window. After checking the entirety of that side, she started checking the next one, and eventually stopped. Here. She said, her face pressed against the glass, Pret here, finger show. She stood on the windowsill, and pointed in a direction, looking inside of the room again, then adjusting where she pointed. Here, yes. Sofia followed her finger, comparing the direction with the highest spire of the palace that she could barely see in the distance over the rooftops. That direction would be the playhouse. Sofia had to run all the way to the poorer district again, buying food for the orphans with the little money she had left on the way. She gave bread to the kids and went right to the black market. This time she did not knock, simply calling out for Rona's, which she knew was hiding somewhere nearby, thus avoiding the entire knife-to-the-throat ordeal she had gone through the first time. She was quickly in and out after selling her stolen jewelry without even negotiating, since she already knew the price the fence would accept. With all the money she could need secured, she made her way to the playhouse. Here again. Sofia looked at the nearby bell tower. A house right underneath it was undergoing repair, though nobody was working on it right at the moment. That's the same tower the dragon jumped at us from. And it must also be where I start all my loops. It's already dusk. People are lining up in front of the playhouse. But they're all holding some sort of ticket? Hopefully I can still get in. Excuse me. Sofia called out to an old lady at the end of the line, I'm new here, I have a friend waiting for me inside, do I need one of those to get in? She asked, pointing at the ticket in the old lady's hand. Ah. That you do, young lady. But I'm afraid you won't be able to join your friend tonight, the tickets for the Divas show are long sold out. Would someone sell me theirs? The old lady looked Sofia up and down, I do not doubt you could afford it, but the tickets are name-specific. I really need to see my friend inside. The old lady looked around, ah. Do you see that young man in yellow, out there? She said, pointing at a man near the entrance of the playhouse. Yes. That is the Riemsal family's youngest. They own the playhouse, the old lady told Sofia, taking a step closer and whispering, covering her mouth with her fan like she was saying something outrageous, with your looks, you might just find a way to have him let you in. Then she took a step back, that is all the advice I have, good evening. Good evening to you, thank you for the information. Of course. Sofia quietly pulled away from the line of people waiting. She looked at the man in yellow waiting next to the entrance. Yet, no. Screw this. Sofia slightly opened her jacket and whispered to the fairy hiding inside. Pestle. Be ready to help open a door when I tell you. We're breaking in. Chapter 630, Diva Diva. Security around the playhouse was not nearly as tight as it was for the Queen's Rest, getting in was almost effortless, it was joining the parts open to the public while avoiding getting seen by the staff, which was a bit tougher. Still, Sofia managed, funnily enough, by entering through the exact same window they had gone through in the real world. She did not even bother trying to find a costume that fit her, and just left the room, thinking that her fur mantle would probably do the job, as there were some among the hung costumes anyway. Walking through a crowd of prepping musicians and busy technicians in the playhouse's back rooms was not the same as trying to avoid guard. She tried to avoid them all as much as possible, but when she couldn't help crossing a crowded area, of course her size inevitably drew a few glances. Still, just walking confidently did the trick, no one stopped her. As for the direction to take, Sofia found a trail of yellow arrows painted on the ground in the corridors, and decided to just follow them, thinking they would lead her either to the exit or to the main stage, which were both better places to be than the middle of the backstage changing rooms. She was especially interested in finding the main stage. If Perith was here, and she wanted to find him, her best choice was to cause some kind of a scene there when everyone was seated, that way everyone would see her. Sofia took a turn, following the arrows, she found herself in a rare empty corridor with no one in sight. Finally I can relax for a few seconds. No one said anything yet, but I really felt watched. I've walked a lot, I can't be far from the stage now. Sofia stopped in the middle of the empty corridor. She looked back. What's with the sudden silence? Overtaken by a bad feeling, Sofia ran back to the last turn. When, standing at the junction, she looked at the corridor she had just come from, she saw the same one she was standing in. She could even see herself from the side, at the other end. She sighed. A spatial bridge trap? And without mana? That's messed up. Sofia heard a giggle. A feminine, ethereal laugh, coming from all directions at once. She could feel Pestle getting ready to jump from under her coat. Who are you? What do you want? Sofia asked, knowing that she was at the mercy of whoever had built this trap. She had studied spatial magic traps with Astelia a bit after getting trapped with her students in the Endless Cube, back in the academy. Without mana to find the ritual's core and destroy it, there was no way to get out. A soft voice answered, "Funny, I was hoping to ask the same questions." "Is that right? Why the trap, then?" "You can just kill yourself if you really want to get out," the voice answered lightly, as if she found the situation funny more than anything else. Sarcasm? If not, then she's literal, meaning she knows about the loops. "Nothing to say," the voice continued, "you still haven't answered the questions." Impatient. "I'm weighing my options," Sofia answered honestly. The voice sighed in return, "And here I was, hoping you would be more talkative than your tall friend." "Perith was here?" Sofia asked. "Perith? Well, he never told me his name, so I couldn't tell you. I'd describe his face if I could, but you know how it is. I don't even know what I look like anymore." She sees the blurry faces? The people here don't ever acknowledge that. She must really know about the loop. She has to be from outside the... "Are you Remia?" Sofia tried, out of nowhere. Oh. It's been a long time since I heard this one. No wonder you were all coming toward me. You were looking for me. You should have been more careful, you got trapped by Serdros. Serdros? Is that the corrupted dragon who sent us here? Actually, never mind that. It seems we started on the wrong foot. I'm Sofia, and my friends and I came here to find an old spell schematic. Do you mind speaking face to face?" "I don't mind," the voice answered, "but we have to be quick. The people out there get very mad if I skip the concert." "Wait, you're the diva singing here? You do this every loop?" Sofia asked, in shock at the implications of this. "An endless routine, lasting for thousands of years. I barely have a choice, skip 3 weeks in a row and I start to disappear. That doesn't feel very good. Here, let me break the trap. Can you open the second door on your right, please?" Sofia walked a few steps and opened said door. Her perspective shifted, and she found herself holding a wardrobe's doorknob instead of a room door. The voice spoke up again, but this time it came from behind instead of everywhere at once. "Welcome to my private lounge," she told Sofia. Sofia turned around. A barefoot woman wearing nothing but a straight white robe was sitting on a stool, her back turned to the wall mirrors. Her skin was so pale it made one wonder whether the robe or her skin was the whitest. She lightly waved at Sofia. "I'm smiling at you," the goddess voiced, "even if you can see it." "I have too many questions to be that carefree," Sofia answered, "but I suppose, it's an honor to meet you. I have been using your music a lot." "You have? So that man wasn't lying when he said he would spread it around. I might actually be able to skip a few concerts in a row now. Thanks." "That man? The admin?" "Could also be Avros, but considering the dagger had the schematics for the 6th melody, it must have been Nex." "Wait. You get energy from people playing your music?" "Listening to it," Remia corrected, "but yes. My existence is a bit different compared to other fiends." "Fiends?" Sofia repeated. "That's what I am. What else does one call an entity feeding off of people's emotions? Gods?" Sofia wanted to answer, but she was not about to waste time debating nomenclature when she had the unique opportunity of talking to someone likely to be a survivor of the lost epoch, who happened to also likely be her ticket out of the looping fake world. She decided to redirect the conversation that way. "Why don't you leave this world, then? There are a lot more people outside. You wouldn't have to keep singing every loop." "I'm stuck here until death gets me." Remia confidently answered, I did what I had to do to avoid that. Her voice stopped. There was a strange silence in the middle of her sentence. So that's a lot better than the other ones who are all dead already. I couldn't hear what you said between avoid and a lot better, Sofia told Remia, it was like you stopped speaking. There are a lot more now. Remia asked, as if repeating a statement that Sofia had made. Except that she didn't. That's not what I said, Sofia tried. Good point. I wonder if one has replaced me, then. Since fiends are all unique. But I'm already half dead, so who knows? Just what the fuck? It's like she's hearing something different that I'm not saying. Is she playing dumb or is something stranger going on? Divine penalty? System sensor? What is this? What's your favorite color? Sofia tried to see how Remia would react. Hey? That. I mean. I like black and white. Remia answered, confused by the random question. That she heard? What did you avoid by coming to this fake world? Sofia then tried. Hey. Why too, I guess. Why do you want to know? Remia asked, hiding her blurry face with her hands. Just what did you hear? Is it the creator of this fake world interfering now? Sorry, I don't know what was going through my head, Sofia apologized, though she had no idea what Remia had actually heard that she looked so embarrassed about. I've been using the sixth melody, the same one you were playing in the real world. How come you can do that if you are stuck here, by the way? You like it too, the goddess asked, it's one of my favorite pieces. I couldn't stop singing it for years after putting it all together, she enthusiastically told Sofia, I suppose what's left of me outside still likes it too. It's just an empty shell of me though. I would advise against going too close. Serdros might have actually saved you by stopping you in time, you know? I have no control over what happens out there, I can just see outside a bit. Speaking of outside, do you know how I can leave? Of course, it's quite easy. You're lucky. Your mute friend is coming this way. Parath.